as a teacher during these times of the pandemic. So I'll just do a short presentation, and then if you have any question, you can write it on the chat, or you can raise up your hand and I will be able to talk about it or to answer you. All right. So the first thing which we should understand is what is e-portfolio. IBMYP gives a very different definition from what we know, rather from what the definition, the original definition of it is. So according to IBO, e-portfolio is a collection of pieces of work by the students that show progressive evidence, which includes presentation, which I'll touch on, development. Development is the artistic idea that the students comes up with, and then the outcome, which is the actual performance or the actual work of the student. And then finally, the commentary, which is also a reflection of the student work and others and theater practitioners. So when you're doing MYP, there are several areas which you're supposed to note, without which you'll miss the point. So the first thing that IBO does is usually it sends a partially completed unit. When they send the partially completed unit, you're not supposed to teach it. You're just supposed to go straight, follow the instructions, and cover each and every area. So the first thing you're supposed to look at is the global context. So the global context is like the general overview of what the student is expected to do. And the global context provides a common language for powerful contextual learning, which helps in identifying specific setting, events, or even circumstances. So in total, according to IBO, there are 6 global contexts. And usually each and every year we have different global contexts that the students are given to look at and to create something in relation to them. And also we have a statement of inquiry, which in short means the guiding question throughout. It's a guiding question, or sometimes it is a guiding statement throughout. So whenever a student is working out, they must focus on the statement of inquiry and not veer off. And especially when tackling task 1, 2, and 4, a student is supposed to pay close attention to it and not veer off the direction. So like I mentioned earlier on, usually the IBO provides the partially completed unit or the PCU and also the statement of inquiry. The first task which the students are supposed to do is the presentation. And in the presentation, according to the statement of inquiry, they are supposed to identify works of art, which may include a spoken word, a monologue, a play, or a book of literature. Depending with what the students or the learner wants to do, they may even choose to pick a book of literature. For example, somebody like Ngugi wa Thiong'o. If the statement of inquiry is talking about how art portrays politics, then I think Ngugi wa Thiong'o in the African setting will really serve well, or Wole Soyinka. If they are choosing something to do with the environment, then that means you'll have to look at performers such as Frantic Theatre in the UK, who are really doing a great job in terms of the environment. So in the presentation, a presentation is just an individual research of the student, and he is supposed to analyze the text or the work of the author or the artist, and they are supposed to use subject-specific terminology. In the presentation, they are supposed to do critical analysis, try to see if the author was successful in portraying the theme that he or she wanted to portray, and what areas did the author work out well, and what areas did the author not bring out their work well. And then they're supposed also to give their own perceptive interpretation and the art form's role according to the context of the statement of inquiry. So after that, they go to task 2, which is the development. In task 2, a student, from day 1, a student is supposed to come up with a process journal. In a layman's language, we can say a process journal is like a diary of each and every day's activity, what the student is planning, or what the student was able to achieve, the challenges, and the skills and techniques which they have acquired, or the skills and techniques which they applied in trying to create the artistic intention. So a student is supposed to come up, for example, with a 30-day process journal. And then out of the 30-day process journal, they are supposed to pick extracts of the days they feel that they were able to learn something, or they were able to explore in detail whatever they were supposed to acquire, and then bring it up. So you may find a process journal that has maybe day 1, maybe day 1 was August 1st, day 2 was August 2nd, but it's up to them. They may choose day 1 to be August 1st, their day 2 may be August 10th, their day 3 could be August 15th, day 4 could be September 1st. So it really depends. So a student is just supposed to pick up extracts, of course, by the help of the teacher. And then after they are done with the process journal, they are supposed to create an artistic intention. The artistic intention is a small definition, I tried to define it, is a decision made by theater makers to communicate deeper meaning through their work. For example, if those people, I may use Sarafina as a play. What were the theater makers trying to communicate through Sarafina? Or Luanda Magere, what was the author and the director trying to communicate through Luanda Magere or Sarafina? So basically that's the artistic intention. Now, a student is supposed to take the motivation they have gotten from task 1 and use it now to create their own artistic intention, which is independent of task 1, but it should be guided by the statement of inquiry. Again, in the artistic intention, the student is supposed to choose a role. Okay, let's say, for example, they are doing a play and they're a group maybe of 5 or 7. So one of them should be an actor or actress. Another one should choose the role of stage designer. Another one should choose the role maybe of script writing, costume designer, or even the director. And then each and every student is going to be marked on the strength of the role they have chosen. Then after that, after the recording and everything, the artistic intention will be marked based on the process journal. They will be marked side by side. Okay, so after they finish that, they are supposed now to look at now the actual performance. According to the artistic intention is like it's like a director's journal for the performers, for the students who are performing. So if a student is performing a monologue, he's supposed to perform the monologue based on the artistic intention they have written. If a student is going to take the role of a director, he's supposed to show how he or she was able to use the directorial concepts to bring out the actual performance of their group action on stage. This can be done on, through recording. If a student maybe has chosen to be a script writer, what we'll look at, or rather what the examiner will focus, will be on the script. If a student has chosen to be a director, we may look at the director's handbook, or we may look at the video of the performance. If another one has chosen to be a stage designer, they must attach pictures of how they began making the stage and how they were able to design it. And the stage will be marked in accordance to the ability of bringing out the story. Okay, so that's that. And then we come now to task 4. Task 4 basically is commentary or reflection. A student is supposed to reflect on themselves, on their performance, that is from beginning from task 2, how they came up with the artistic intention. And now task 3, ask themselves a question: if they were successful in achieving their artistic intention and the challenges they encountered. And then here again, they're supposed to do peer review and talk about how other students performed and if they were able to achieve the statement of inquiry or not. And also a student in task 4, they are free also to look at artists. For example, if it is something to do with, if it is art that deals with post-independence Africa, maybe they may choose to look at works of singers like Bob Marley and try and see, still they may, under commentary, they may comment on Bob Marley's music and if it was able to bring out their intended work. They may also look at theater performances or theater authors like people like maybe Ngugi wa Thiong'o in his works. There's Francis Imbuga in his books of performance, and try and see if Imbuga was also able to address the statement of inquiry that was addressed when they were handling the partially completed unit, the first area of global context and the statement of inquiry. With that, I think I'm done. So if you have any question, I'll be glad to respond. Julisa, back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Derick. We have the chat thing. If you have questions that you want to ask Derick right now on what he has presented in this is a great time to do this before we move on to the next presentation. So if you have a question you'd like to ask about the e-portfolio, please post that right now. I'll give you just a minute. I'm scrolling down to see if there are any hands raised. If you wanted to rather ask your question, you can do that as well. Erick, if you would like to just talk briefly here about Padlet, it would be a great time. So go ahead and unmute yourself. And we'll keep collecting questions as we continue on today.
All right. Thank you, Julisa. I'm now in charge of other applications that we can use during our drama teaching. The first one is Padlet. So Padlet is a place where you can use with your students when you want to brainstorm. So what I'm going to do on the chart is put the link to the Padlet. So when you click on that link, you're going to go to, ideally, to the Padlet that I've already created for everyone, all right? So this Padlet, you can be able to write something right now. As you write, you need to write something about, I wonder, what do you still wonder about drama? Or which is this topic that you still wonder about? You're still wondering, how do I teach this? How do I deliver this? How does this work? You know, all of us, we are teaching in different curriculums. We have IGCSE teachers here, we have IB teachers here, we have BNC teachers, we have BTech, we have EdExcel, and you're still wondering about something. So type something on this Padlet, all right, about something that you still wonder, okay? Now, there's something that you're wondering right now. There's something that you still wonder, you've been wondering for years, and then you've just found out. So as we continue with the webinar, what is this thing that you will have found out today? You can type it right here on the Padlet so that we can be able to tackle it. Now, at the end of the webinar, what is this thing that you will have known? So now I know. So how do you type it? You go to the plus sign. There's a plus sign there, and you just plus and you type whatever you want to type. What is this that I still wonder? I'm still wondering. Now I know. Or what is this thing that you want to know today? And as you're typing, I'm going to play a little bit of a song as you're typing. So I want everyone to go to this tablet, to the padlet.com, and type something for the next 1 minute.
ikinibidi sina budi riziki kutafuta, usife moyo, jipe moyo, I promise. Machozi nitafuta, nieleze unachotaka, nieleze, I'll be listening. Usilie wakati unataka, niambie, I'll be listening. Ni ahidi tutaonana tena, tutaonana tena. Ni ahidi tutaonana tena, tutaonana tena. Ni ahidi tutaonana tena, ahidi tutaonana. Ni ahidi tutaonana tena, tutaonana tena. I'm not going anywhere. Nitangoja. Kumbuka sio hoja, nawe kufa na kupona, bebe, nitavumilia. Ni ahidi tutaonana tena, tutaonana tena. Ni ahidi.
So for the people who are coming in, we are typing on the Padlet. There's a link that is already there. So type something that you're still wondering, something that you still want to know about drama in this webinar. Either you're an IGCSE teacher, either you are an IB teacher, a BTech teacher. What is this thing that you want to know? Let's type on the Padlet in the next 20 seconds. After 20 seconds, we close that chapter, and someone is going to look at the on the Padlet, and we shall refer back to the Padlet. All right, so 15 seconds so far. All right, so there we are. So guys have been typing on the Padlet. That is wonderful. You can use the Padlet to gauge if students understood the topic that you're trying to teach. They will write there, okay? They don't need to write their name. They can even, it can be anonymous. You don't need to know the name of the student. They can rate your teaching of a certain topic. They can also rate the understanding of a certain topic. If someone has a question, they can put it there. If a student still wants to know something, they will put it on the Padlet. So Padlet can be used in class at the beginning or towards the end of the lesson. So ideally, this is a wonderful platform to use virtually. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a baby that we've been planning for. It's already been born today, and we are happy for everyone that is on board. So we thank you so much for being here. And just before we get to Shem is going to be analyzing the script. We are going to say thank you so much. We're going to give you many other links and many other applications that you can be able to use while you're teaching drama to make it more interesting when you're doing it virtually. You're listening to music courtesy of Erick Mukiira, a drama teacher, 11 years of experience. Shem Agunga, are you ready?
Oh, yes, I'm ready.
All right, take it home.
Okay, greetings, people. It's wonderful to see all of you here joining us for this wonderful session. It's important to understand, to confirm the fact that we are teachers from different curricula here. So today I'll be talking about script analysis, and this is one area that I believe is, cuts across different curricula. So it doesn't matter whether you teach in the IB curriculum or you teach in the IGCSE curriculum or you're teaching BTech. This is one area where we do things more or less the same. So first of all, I'm Shem Agunga. I'm a teacher of theater and literature in Kobe, Japan. I'm also a stage and screen actor. I'm a screenwriter as well. I have a couple of scripts that are being looked into right now by potential producers. I'm a budding novelist. I have 2 novels, almost going for publishing. One is being edited right now. And of course, you can find me at shemagunga@gmail.com. Okay, let's go straight to what is dramatic text. Now, when we talk about dramatic text, we're talking about a literary text that shows action via dialogue. Of course, we talk about dialogue. We're all teachers. We understand we're talking about what is spoken and acting of characters and the authorial notes or notes from the author's work. And we are typically describing the physical action of actors, the places where they are at the time, and the circumstances, etc., as we are going to see in the subsequent slides. Let us try to understand what text analysis is. When somebody says, what is text analysis? Because this is the key point here. We are talking about the process of distilling, of filtering information and getting meaning from text to understand the best way to approach a performance. We need to understand that the overall dramatic context for what is spoken, including the performance and design ideas, all incorporate what we define as text analysis. It also helps us to transform the writing and or the page that we are focusing on into flesh so that it is ready for performance. Our definition is related or is defined as per performance because this is theater that we are talking about. So whatever we are trying to understand is related to performance. So we are trying to make the audience or the reader ready for performance. It also helps us to get familiar with the text, with the characters and the relationships between the characters, the relationship between the characters and the set, the relationship between the characters and the time, as well as the dialogue as well. Now, we also look at a very important aspect here because this is where the central analysis of a script comes in. When we talk about given or provided circumstances in text, now this is very critical. Like I said before, it doesn't matter from which curriculum you're looking at it. But when you are analyzing a text for performance, it is important, first of all, to define and have in your know the circumstances within that text. Now, these are the aspects of the world of the play that the script tells us. What does the script tell us? And sometimes the playwright tells us the given circumstances directly. For example, let's look at the time. Sometimes the script writer tells us the time in which the scene or the play takes place, or sometimes we have to figure that out when we are reading. So those are what we call the given or provided circumstances, as we are going to see also in the subsequent slides. So what are these given circumstances that I am talking about? Now, one, time. So here we ask ourselves the following questions. What is the time of the day for each scene? So as you walk through the text, scene by scene, act by act, what is the time of the day? What is the time of the year for each of those scenes or acts? Then we look at the period. Time and period are so interrelated. And so when you look at time, you're looking at the specific time, but for period, we're looking at the era. For example, is it during the Elizabethan period? Are we looking about the Renaissance period? Are we talking about the 21st century, or are we being futuristic? So we need to know which, what is the period that the script is based on. We also need to look at and understand the place. Now, where does this action take place? You need to describe that when you are doing a script analysis. Where does this action take place? Is it inside or outdoors? Is it in the interior of a house or within a container, whatever it is, or is it outside? What are the furniture and props that are needed? Are there any doors or windows? These are the nitty-gritties that we need to focus on when talking about place during script analysis. We also need to understand that we need to focus on the location. Now, place and location are also interrelated, just like time and period. For location, we are looking at in the broad, specific, but also broad in a way. For example, if it is the Merchant of Venice, for example, where is the location? We're told the location is in Venice. So Venice is the location. If you're looking at, for example, any other play, maybe a play written by a Chinese that is located in Shanghai, China, then you'd say it's in Shanghai, China, or it's located in an East African country, for example. So that is very important to understand when, as a given circumstance, when you are doing a script analysis. The mood of the play, how does the play make you feel? This is the point where you really need to brainstorm on the adjectives and the feeling words, descriptive words that are going to help you understand how you feel about the play. And then we also look at the theme. This is very critical. What is the main idea about the play? What is the text about? What is the play, or what is the prose? Because people can as well adapt plays from a prose. So what is it? What is the whole play, or what does every theme talk about? What are the key topics or key ideas that we get from every topic, from every scene, sorry, or every act, or the overall theme of the play? Okay, let us also look at the other element that is very important when you're doing script analysis. Now, these are the design elements of any text. If you don't talk about the design elements, then you're missing out on more than half of what you're supposed to talk about. Now, there are different kinds of design during a performance, or when you're analyzing a performance. You're looking at set, props, background, and decor. You're looking at costumes. You're looking at lighting and sound. You're looking at costumes and makeup. So I will try to brush through these quite fast. One, let's look at set and props. Now, when we talk about set and props, as you can see on my screen, is that we are talking about the scenery, very, very critical. That's a very important point. The furniture and the props that the audience see during a production of a play, and the makeup of the set design. So that is the whole picture. What do they see without the performers on stage? So that is very important, and that is part of the design elements. Secondly, we look at what should the set, and how should the set be? So the most important thing is that it should suggest the style and tone of the whole production. And of course, all design elements should give you cues as to the specific time and place of action, including the costumes, including lighting and sound, all those. So you'll find that this particular section will have a lot of similarities. The second design element that we are looking at is lighting and sound. And here we look at stage lighting. And we're looking at the functions being to make the actors and their environs visible to the audience. The most important function of lighting on stage, first, is to make sure that the actors are visible. Secondly, it is to bring in the aesthetic value and to communicate symbolism on stage in different areas here and there. So those are some of the key areas we need to look at when you're talking about design elements, about lighting and sound as a design element of text analysis. So you look at the lighting, you look at the sound effects, you look at the background music, very, very important when you're talking about script analysis. The other part is what should lighting do? What should sound do? If you remember when I was talking about set design, there are those elements that are quite repetitive. For example, you're talking about time of day and location. You're talking about creating mood and changing mood from one aspect to the other. So these are very important for all design elements when you're talking about a script analysis. The other one is costume and makeup. And of course, we understand that costume is the creation of clothing for overall appearance of a character or a performer. And that's why you have serious theater practitioners or producers or directors focusing on different periods within to create to make the play look real and relatable. If you are doing The Merchant of Venice, I'll go back to that, or any of the plays by William Shakespeare, you'll realize that the kind of costuming is different from plays written in the contemporary setting. So this is very important because it also communicates time, it communicates style as per during that time and era when the play was written. Okay, we also, of course, just like all the other design elements, costumes and makeup should also reinforce the mood and style of the production, and also distinguish between major and minor characters, relationships between the characters, change of actors' appearances. So that is very critical. And like I said before, this is quite repetitive because it cuts across all design elements. I would like to share with you, in my line of teaching, I teach students who are who take English as a second language, being in Japan, and this is one of the kind of approach worksheet that has really worked for me that I'd like to share with you. I use this with my students, and this is a sample from one of my students who is an ESL speaker. And this helps my students to learn and understand how to break down or how to analyze the script scene by scene. So last time we looked at The Merchant of Venice, and this was a simple sample plot worksheet. And if you see here, we have the act of the scene, the location where it takes place, the key events, the characters, and the dominant theme and idea. So students are able to watch the play and then try to make sure that they are able to identify all these elements step by step. Now, this was taught online through Zoom. This class we handled through Zoom. So the first thing we did is the moment the students we got on, then they would give an account of what they were able to read and then share this particular plot worksheet and explain what they were able to understand. And this happened with different students, and then they were able to relate and compare their work with the others. And there are those light bulb moments like, oh, I missed that, or I got that. So this is a very important plot worksheet. I'll go back to the presentation, to the last slide, of course. And then for the last slide, sorry. Okay. Oh yes, yeah, for the sample directorial and design ideas template. So to help my students understand how to yes, how to plot and put in their design ideas. They created something like this, where, for example, they picked on a scene and a scene summary, production elements, and ideas, and then they were able to, for example, this is the set, they're able to explain the set, the characters, and of course, costumes, all the design elements within one particular worksheet. So because of time constraints and that, I will have to say thank you so much. And I will hand over to Julisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Shem. This is not Julisa, this is Erick Mukiira. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Shem, who was talking about script analysis. And as you can see, there's a lot that goes into script analysis and a lot of work. So what Shem just showed us is a breakdown that takes, it takes time. It can even take even a whole term. Students needs to go through these nitty-gritties from setting to costume to sound to light and these to lighting, and these cannot take place just within one lesson. So this takes time, and this can even take an entire term for a student to just analyze even a simple scene and understand it and put it on stage. So thank you so much, Shem. And I have seen so many questions that were just put on ePortfolio. I mean, on the Padlet.com, there's someone who was asking, ePortfolio, can it be used in other grades? So Derick, be ready with that answer. Then why can we not enjoy drama? Why just assess it? Why are we assessing drama? Because if you assess drama, that means you're putting boundaries onto it. That means you're also putting boundaries on creativity and other things. So that means that student cannot grow beyond these boundaries. Then why are we assessing drama? So these are questions that we're going to discuss towards the end of our webinar. Then someone also asked, how do we manage class time? So you've been given 1 hour of drama time in a class. How are you going to manage it virtually? How do you start? How do you continue? And how do you end it? And then there's also someone who just asked, then how do you carry out practicals virtually online? How do you do it? And I'm so sure this is an area that Julisa has a lot of experience with. Now, as we are thinking about all these questions that have been asked by people, what I've just done is I've put a link on the chat. Can you go on the chat? There's a link that I've just put there, right? And that link is about, it's about storyboard. So how do you go about storyboard? And you see, storyboard goes hand in hand with what Shem was talking about, and that is script analysis. Look at the script and how is it going on from one scene to the next scene to the next scene. What if you're really devising a script from the scratch? What do? You have to come up with a storyboard. Then there's a link there that guides you into exactly creating the storyboard. So I'm gonna give you just 15 seconds to just click on that link and see what the storyboard can do for you. And as you're clicking on that link, I'm gonna play beautiful music for you as you check on that storyboard. Only 15 minutes. Right. So I hope you've been able to look at the storyboard. So that was the storyboard. Okay. So I'm going to invite the next person, and that is Joel. Joel will be talking about storytelling. And as Joel is talking about storytelling, Kajet and Boy, we all know about Kajet and Boy, will be ready to chip in. Also, Clifford Oluoch, who is also a good storyteller, who has published so many other books, will also be ready to just chip into what Joel will be talking about. How do we tell a story online today? How do we modernize it? Joel, are you ready?
Yes, I'm very ready. Sorry, I realized that not unmuted myself.
All right, Joel.
Ready. I'll share my screen. Just send a text message if you cannot see my screen, and I'll try and reshare it again. All right, I'm going to assume that you can see my screen right now. So first things first. Yeah, I want to play this short clip. This is a YouTube link, and I'll send these links at the end of this presentation. I should have them ready. I'm going to play this just for a bit for you to just see. But as you're watching it, notice the way this person has these two puppets. They're not the most outstanding puppet. They're very simple and easy to make, and that's the point of how you can tell stories. So my sharing today will be about how you can tell stories using simple objects in the house, or manufacturing a puppet using paper and whatever you have in the house. And unfortunately, I will not show you an example of my students doing it, but I'll show you an example of how my students are performing online, telling stories, but using another theater tradition.
Lots of different ways, using a phone, laptop, or video camera, for example. I'm going to record mine with a tablet. Once you're happy with it, you're ready to upload it and share it.
Okay, so that's just one example, and I'll share this video. It's less than 2 minutes, and it should give you some ideas. Another one that these two videos kind of gave me some inspiration alongside other videos of how you can tell stories online using objects.
One day, Jack, he walked on the path. This is the way we walk and walk, walk and walk, walk and walk. And then he came upon a boat lying around the house, and it became a mountain. This is the way we climb and climb, climb and climb, climb and climb. And then he came upon some color pencils or markers lying around the house. What could they be? It could be our forest of trees. What did Jack do? And Jack ran through the forest of trees. This is the way we run and run, run and run, run and run.
And the point here is that with the storytelling using objects, it's easy for students to do online. You can have yourself like me. If I am online, all I need is a couple of objects on the table or a stool, or on the floor, and you can invite your students to take those objects and give them life. So it exercises their voice predominantly. They transfer their expressions to these innate things. I had a good student, a girl who took different facial powders, small teens. She had like about 3 teens, and those 3 teens were 3 humans. And she had a box of I guess makeup kit, and it became a mountain. And it's amazing how it expands on kids' creativity, but it is also amazing how suddenly you, a performer, are transferring all your skills into these objects, and they come alive and they engage with the audience in many ways. But then you might ask yourself, how do you then share this story? From the first video you saw there, this person kind of showed us how you can record yourself using a tablet, a phone, so you can record the piece and then share it later. But I'm gonna talk more about how you can do it live, where you have a session, a class, and the others are watching. And to do that, I'm gonna show you a snippet of one of my class. Now, this was not storytelling using objects. This was storytelling using their body. they were doing a Japanese style theater called Rakugo. I do this with some of my senior classes in grade 11, 12. So I'm gonna play a little bit, and you'll hear me talking, and you'll also see how I'm transitioning from this is one student, she's just finishing, and then another student is about to start. Hopefully it plays smoothly for you. This is a recording through Teams, not Zoom. Sorry, well done. Again, guys, remember that, we'll come back to that. Next is Jack and then Sarah. So Jack, can you guys see me fine? I am finding you right now. Let me pin you first and then they can appreciate your show. Yeah, we can see you, Jack. Okay. Hi, Jake. Is that you? Riley, it's been such a long time. Yeah, we haven't seen each other since high school. Yeah, you want to catch up a bit? I actually have a bit of a leeway in my schedule right now. Sure, why not? So, are you still dating Brianna from high school? No, we broke up a couple years past. And so the idea here is that in Rakugo, one performer, stand-up comedian, sort of like the American stand-up, this is sit down, faces left or right, assuming different characters, and then using predominantly the upper part of their body to tell the story. And there's more to Rakugo other than that. But the beauty about sharing the screen and with Teams you can pin is that there's a live audience at the bottom there, me included there with my big smile, and all the other students also watching. And from the feedback of the students, it's like they feel like they're almost on stage performing to a live audience. There's still that immediacy, even though it's virtually. They're nervous, they want to do their best in front of their peers. But look, they're at home, they're in different locations in Beijing, China. And they're still performing and enjoying their piece. So that's one way you can get kids to share. This is the same style I used with my students when they were performing with objects. Again, I pin, and then one person with their object and their table, they tilt their camera and they take us through the story. So if it's like that, they take us through the story and the objects are there, and then they finish, and then another one presents. And they give each other feedback sometimes if time allows. I found that those were definitely interesting and engaging ways of telling stories online. But that's what has worked for me. I'd like to hear from others, especially those true storytellers who are here. So I'll pass it back to you, Eric. Thank you, guys.
All right. That was Joel, and Joel loves storytelling. Just before I continue with other things, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give this opportunity to anyone who is on board here. How do you approach storytelling? How are you planning to approach it? And I'm not going to be afraid to call people's names so that they can be able to share what they believe. So if I call your name, just speak about your challenges, speak about storytelling, you can speak about e-portfolio or the process journal, or how you understand about it, or anything that you're still wondering and this session has not answered that question. So Collins, Abuga.
Eric, if someone wants to speak and you cannot unmute your mic, we may need to do it. So raise your hand with a little icon so that we can know to unmute your mic. Collins, I'm requesting you to unmute your mic so that you can speak.
All right, so you can unmute your mic and you can speak about what you've seen so far, questions that you have so far, and what you still want to understand. So this is an interactive session from now on until around 4:20 p.m. So we are going to stretch this webinar to around 4:20 p.m. so that we can tackle all the questions that we need to tackle and help every other drama teacher who is out there. So Collins, take it out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Collins Abuga. I'm a teacher of English language and literature and drama. Beyond the teaching and training of students and pupils, my biggest challenge has always been how to transform that into a lively, living performance on a stage. And if we can find some information, a meeting point of the two, the actual, hello?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, you can hear me still?
Yes.
Right, yeah, so beyond the teaching actually, so the bringing to life of the script on stage, I think that would be really, really useful. Thank you.
All right, so how do you make it more lively on stage? I can chip in and say something that I'm already doing, and someone else can chip in and say something they're already doing. Now, let me tell you what I do. In every grade, there is someone who's in charge of music. So at the beginning of my lesson, there's someone who's just putting live music, and everyone must dance. And I tell every student that I'm assessing their dancing style and how they are dancing. So as you've heard that music, that is the music I've been playing all along. My name is Erick Mukiira, a drama teacher currently in international schools around Kenya. But now, music is one way of making your class entertaining. Can you make your students dance at the beginning of the lesson or towards the end? That is how I do it. Joel, how do you make your lessons more entertaining? And as Joel is speaking about it, then Julisa can also be prepared with that question. How do you make your lessons even more entertaining so that online platforms can be a class that is more entertaining? Joel?
Yeah, I think for me, it's worked best when I have tried to get the students to, like I showed in the last clip, is when I've gotten the students to feel the immediacy of the others. It becomes boring when they feel like they're distant. Anything you can do to make them feel like they're there and then all together, it makes it interesting. Of course, using a lot of technology helps them get more engaged. So I don't use books. I don't use written books. I use a lot of digital tools. Because we have a Microsoft suite, I use the entire Microsoft suite. So when I'm having a conversation with students, I also have already prepared pages on their process journal, if you call them in MYP, or their journals in DP. And there will be a series of prompts or images or video that they have to kind of click and link up to as they're following the conversation. So it keeps them on toes. So for example, if you're saying, what is storytelling? Immediately there's I say, go to your journal. There's a place where you need to type in your thoughts. So if a student is not tuned in, then obviously you can tell they're not tuned in. But if they're there, then you can easily see that, oh, there's the kid. They have typed, because you can tell who's commenting. The same way you use Padlet. So it would be like a Padlet link is there. It can be and other tools that are out there for sharing or brainstorming. So I kind of use that approach. But I can tell you from my experience, the moment you make it live, on the screen where the others are either commenting or watching and then responding to something, they will get engaged. And obviously use a lot of technology, whether, like if I would have showed you that clip, unfortunately it didn't record that day when they were doing their storytelling with objects. There's a student who even got light, basic light in the house and lit up their small stage. And these are prompts that I gave them at the beginning. I say, think about the things you have in the house. You can use a table lamp and it can become a stage light. You can take a big book and put it next to you and it can be the background. I had another student who took their iPad and kept on swiping, and each time they swiped the iPad, it changed the background, and that was just amazing while they were telling the story. So that's how it works.
Fantastic, Joel. Now, as we were waiting for Julisa to just get in touch with the idea of storytelling, Kajetan boy, how do you make the idea of storytelling more interesting for kindergarten kids? And as Kajetan boy is answering that question, Clifford Oluoch, try to just demystify the idea of storytelling to kindergarten kids. How can you teach them to just tell stories in a beautiful way? Kajetan boy, are you on board?
Yes, I am. My take is that even whatever level you are at, structure is important. So there are simple ways of teaching structure, and one of the methodologies I use is something called SCOOP. And SCOOP is a methodology whereby S stands for setting, C stands for character, O stands for oh no, that's the inciting incident. The other O stands for order of events, and the P stands for problem solved. Now scoop connected to an ice cream scoop, so the kids can remember it easily. A scoop of ice cream or a scoop of something. And I found that when you explain it to them that way, they easily grasp structure, because actually we all understand and grasp structure. So the easiest way is to talk about the setting where they live. They understand that. The characters, they understand characterization, they understand problems. So I find that, and I don't know, when you talk about kindergarten, I don't know what ages you're talking about exactly, but I'm talking about maybe ages 10 and above. The scoop can work with them well. Younger than that might be a bit more of a challenge.
All right. That was Kajetan boy. And Kajetan boy, do you have any information for students who are a little bit above the kindergarten? Let's say some people who are around 17, 16 years, and they still, they really want to write a script. What is there for them? And when they're analyzing a script, what should they look at?
Well, the main thing in a script is that you have to have a character who has a problem they're trying to solve. I just thought that is the main thing to any story they want to tell that is going to engage people. They must have a character who has a problem they're trying to solve, they themselves are trying to solve. Then from that starting point, you can get them to develop the characters deeper. But once they grasp the idea, it's about a character proactively going to solve a problem and not just being put through situations, because that's what we tend to do. We tend to put characters through situations, but not have them actively trying to solve problems. So that's how that's what I'd share with them. Always have a character with a problem, trying to solve it, and your business is not to make the problem easy. Your business is to make life as hard as possible for that character, so that they have to excel.
All right. That was Kajetan boy. Clifford Oluoch, are you still with us?
I think he's dropped out.
All right. So Clifford Oluoch has dropped out. Now, we are still
No, I've not dropped out. I'm here.
Perfect. Karibu sana, Clifford Oluoch. Clifford Oluoch, I've read so many of your storybooks. I don't understand how you write these storybooks and you're still fresh with fresh ideas. And if someone wants to write up stories, not even this person who wants to write up stories, what about this person who is reading your story and wants to stage this story? How do they go about the script analysis or a little bit about script writing? Take us through.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Mine is very brief. I think that we are all born storytellers and you're born story writers. The rest is just about structure. And the thing I want to say is that the stories stem around from a lot of things. The first thing is actually your personal experiences. And I've tried as much as possible to make all my stories very, very personal, as in things that I went through or things that I saw people going through or things that I see people going through. So they're relatable, they're very, very relatable. So which means I deal a lot with realistic fiction. So because of that, I think that when it comes to scripting, it has to be close to your heart. That's the first thing. You have to feel it. If you're not feeling it, then there's no way the reader or the audience will feel it. So it cannot be mechanical, you know, it can't just be out of, should I say what, mechanical going through this ropes and just following rules and following structures and whatever kind of thing. There has to be a soul, there has to be a heart to it. And that's why I prefer things that are close to my heart. There's my friend Idris Mutuku, who is a very good storyteller for kindergarten kids. That's why I wanted him to mention something. If he's on the forum, Eric, maybe you can, and that's difficult, right? Thank you very much.
Idris Mutuko is the same person who just talked about how do you do storytelling in a kindergarten level. Idris Mutuko, I'm still following up on what you're writing, and can you just shed a little bit of light about the challenges of storytelling when it comes to kindergarten, or the successes that you have achieved so far?
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, my good.
Good afternoon.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay. Karibu.
Yes. Karibu.
All right. Asante. I've been doing storytelling for the last like 20 years to kindergarten children. And one of the things is I've realized with the small children is they love repetition. Repetition is what they love the most. Just like the traditional stories we had of, like the ones that we went through, something like the Wolf, Mr. Wolf, or the Sunguram Janja, there was that repetition. And although I mix the two languages, I might tell them in English, but the songs might be in Kiswahili. And the Kiswahili songs are usually repetitive. And you don't need to know the meaning, because when I say, din, 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 because someone took a lot of sugar and the sugar filled the stomach until it was din, 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 they'll know, oh, the stomach was really full. So the repetition is the trick. Another thing, you have to really involve the children. Like the common African storytellers in the Maskani, where I come from in Mombasa or here in Nairobi, you'll find someone talking to you and say, Shem, ali anza kunipi, piga. Alafu akaanza kuniche, cheka. You know, there's something that you have to keep involved.
I love it already.
The same with the old man in the village. Like I was in a nearby village, and he had this old man who had not seen me for so long, told me using gestures. You have to use gestures and with the children too, and say, the old man will tell me, kwa hivyo bwana, kijana wangu, nilikuwa na ng'ombe
wangu.
Use 3 fingers, yeah? Alafu, nikawa nimepoteza nao ng'ombe. Okay? We'll use signs. Those signs are very, very important with the children. Same with the facial expression. In short, when you're a child storyteller or you're telling stories to children, you have to really, really dramatize, use facial expressions. You have to really sweat it out. And finally, keep it short and sweet. I usually use the word kiss with my students where I teach, even the older ones. I tell them kiss, that is keep it short and sweet. When you keep it short and sweet, they'll remember it. Finally, when you do an action and a certain animation, please, if you have to repeat the story to a small child in kindergarten, try to remember that thing you did last time. Because if you don't, they'll actually remind you. There was one time a child told me, a child called Tai. Right now he's gone to year 7, but in kindergarten, I'll never forget that. He told me you did not do, you did not close one eye and the tongue out when you said something. I said that last time, yes. So I was waiting for you to do that, to close one eye and protrude your tongue. Okay? So you have to retell the story. So I had to retell the story with Tai in mind, this boy called Tai Mugai. And to remember that part, I'll have to wink and protrude my tongue. And then finally, you have to multitask. If you are possible, if you can play a song, if you can have a guitar, like I came with my guitar, I do like this. To draw their attention, do it. Anything, whatever, whether it's a puppet, do it. But don't overdo it, but come with one thing and focus on it. Basically, that's what I can tell you. I hope I've been short and sweet.
Idris, you've been short and very sweet. In fact, you were wondering, can we give you a session where you can just talk about storytelling using your guitar and other artifacts? What do you think?
Inshallah, next time.
All right. So inshallah, next time. As we are still pondering about what Idris just told us, and you've just heard, it's about repetition. And what else can you put in on the board? Is it the guitar? Is it the flute? What else can you put in? Is it about facial expression, or is it just ending the words? Like what I'm about to say. My name is Erick Mukiira Rowe. Yeah. So Njero becomes the person who knows about my name, says Njero. And that you have to involve the kindergarten kids from the word go, from the beginning to the end. And as I'm talking about this, Joel wants to add something about storytelling, either to a kindergarten student or to even students who've already gone to high school and stuff. So Joel, you were talking about 40 minutes and 15 minutes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, sorry. I was responding to Tracy's comment about engaging young learners. But I think we've also gotten a very professional and practical approach just now with engaging with your gestures and voice and repetition. I was just saying, chunk it. Don't go for a whole lesson with primary kids. The research says that they can't focus, especially online, and it's not healthy for them. So I would probably start with engaging dramatic games that are geared towards storytelling, like one-word story, because you can do that online. Everyone shares a word or a sentence, and together you form a story that burns about 10, 15 minutes. You get them up and moving in their house, doing any dramatic warm-up activity, and then you sit them down. Either you share a story or a couple of them share stories that are very short, that you've probably given them time to look at. So that way you burn a whole 40 minutes, but ideally the kids have only been sharing or have been forced to think deeply for maybe 15 minutes. The rest of the time is more of, peer sharing, and then it becomes a little bit easier for them to digest. Those were my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Joel. And as Joel is ending that thought, which is wonderful. I love what Idris just put on the board, and I love it. I put a link for you so that you can just put your email address there, so that when we are having any other webinar, we can always approach you. We can always approach you directly without going through other social media groups and stuff like that. So I've just put a link on your chat message, so you can check your chat message, put your email address there. If there's a place where you can put your phone number there. We're going to have something we are preparing in the future about storytelling and even other stuff that are even more interesting. And as we are doing that, Shem Agunga is going to be talking a little bit more about storytelling. And we have roughly around 8 minutes. Then we're going to wrap up. So we're going to have Shem Agunga, and then we're going to have anyone else who wants to say something. If you feel like we need to put something in the next few weeks, next week, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is, kindly tell us. This is the platform. This is the first time that Kenya, we are coming together as drama teachers, and we are doing something together, and we have to do it now, and we have to do it perfectly, and you have to make sure whichever drama teacher, wherever you are, where you are, whatever challenges that you're going through, we are talking about them, and we are solving all these challenges that you're going through. Shem Agunga, continue talking to us as everyone else is filling their email addresses on the email, on the link that I'm sending to you right now. Shem Agunga.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. I think I'd like to probably touch a little bit on what Kajetan Boy talked about, what Cliff talked about, and what Idris talked about. And I think it all boils down to one key element. And this is something that is adopted by very effective storytellers across the board, whether you're telling stories through music, through a book, through a script, or performance on stage or puppetry. This is what we call the hook in every story. And looking at what Idris was talking about, your hook can be in form of very many ways. Your hook can be a kind of a gesture that is repeated, or in music, you can have a repeated kind of a sound or a word that hooks people up, and then they can help you tell a story, or a music instrument, a particular instrument you play. For example, right now, for those who are familiar with Kenyan storytellers or YouTubers, there's a gentleman called Abel Mutua, and right now, for his YouTube videos, there's one particular thing he does over and over, and it's become part of his storytelling agenda. He keeps saying, "Don't worry, I got you." So you find that his audience keeps saying that over and over for him. So it becomes kind of of part of his storytelling. The other thing that every storyteller needs to do is to make sure that you tell your story. And to tell your story, you need to make sure that your story is systematic, whether it is based on personal, when it's based on a personal experience, like Mr. Clifford Watch was saying, or whether it's fiction. But you need to have a very clear introduction, and you develop your story. So you have a very good rising action where you develop your characters and you develop your actions, whatever happens. Then you have a very good climax where you have all the conflict and all that happening, like Kajetan Boy was talking about. Then have a solution to that conflict step by step. As you go, you try to mellow down the whole story, and then have a final conclusion, which can be in any other form. I always like to work with Konstantin Stanislavski's idea of making your story real. So as you work towards this, it's important to make sure that your audience are able, or whoever is listening or reading your story is able to relate to that, and they can probably experience and feel the feelings that the actors in the story are experiencing and are feeling. So I thought that's a very important thing to discuss. So that idea, it's a pyramid. It's called the Freytag's pyramid, where you have the building of the story from the introduction through the rising action to the climax, falling action, all the way to the conclusion. For me, that's one thing that I work with my students all the time. And all my students, the first thing we talk about storytelling is I take them through that so that they know how to structure their stories. Thank you so much, Eric.
Asante sana, Shem Agunga. And as we are just ending the idea of what Shem Agunga just said, Stanislavski came up with a certain system for actors and directors. And I've used these in my teaching career. I know as Africans, we're going to come up with our own system. One of us will come up with it and will publish it. Probably Clifford or even Idris, all right? Or even myself. Why did I leave myself? Or even Julisa, or even Shem, or Derick, or even Joel, all right? And as we're coming up with this system of training actors on how to act, depending on which context they are coming from, check on the link that I've just sent to you. Is www.bbbbpress.com teaching/drama. That one gives you an idea of which kind of e-books that you can come up with, or you can even give to your school to even buy for you. I'm sending you again another link. It's called www.dramaonline.com. That one again, you can also quote it. And these links I'm giving to you, don't even ignore them. These are for your virtual platforms. How do you make your drama live virtually? These are the links I'm giving to you. I've also given to them, to my own school. They need to pay for those subscriptions so that the kids can go online, check drama online, plays online, comment on them, get resources online, download them, and all this kind of thing. So check the links that I've just given to you. Now, Derick Murunga, someone asked you, can e-portfolio be used for all grades? Derick, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here, Eric. Just a quick one. I'd written it on chat. E-portfolio is, to simplify it again, is just like a library or an archive. There is no limit for year or year group or age. Basically, as maybe for the lower years, e-portfolio can just be used as a library for them. Anytime they perform, they add their performance after recording their performance, they add there, and then they talk about, they do a kind of reflection, whether they think they were able to connect with the audience, whether they think they were able to bring out their message properly as they intended in their artistic intention, though they don't have any. Now, as they grow, maybe to later years, let's say year 11, year 10, or rather from year 9 onwards, you can now start introducing them to analyzing, doing textual analysis, the way Shem talked about. They can do textual analysis, get ideas from other theater practitioners, and then out of the ideas, they can now be able to, they can now get their own ideas. They can borrow ideas from other theater practitioners and create their own performances. And then after creating their own performances, they can do a personal review, or they can get review from other people how their performance was and include it in the reflection. So just to say, it's not limited to year group, but the lower year groups, let it be simple enough. Just performance and reflection, period. As they grow, you introduce things like process journal, you introduce things like artistic intention, and now the reflection. Thank you.
Asante sana, Derick. So the last two questions, just before we release everyone else. And guys, never get tired of being an excellent drama teacher. So we only schedule this session for 1 hour, but we are requesting everyone to just stay a little bit so that we can answer these two questions. Why are we assessing drama? Why are we assessing creativity? Why are we assessing these drama students? Drama, if you assess it, then you're stopping a student from being 100% a creative student. Why are we doing this? And if we do this, what are the repercussions? And what can we do after this student has finished IB or IGCSE? What is there for us? What can we deliver for these students to be able to have a future and a promising future in this particular artistic journey? Anyone? Now this one, first of all, I'm going to throw it to Jackson. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Speak to us.
Okay. So basically, we are in a school institution where all subjects are assessed, and we are at a loss because we do not have control over their assessment. But what I want to just say is, let us create an environment where students enjoy the subject. Enjoyment is, first of all, create passion for the subject so that the assessment will come in naturally. You know, the thing is, even if we are doing assessment, but you make the students enjoy the process, let them enjoy the whole process, it makes it a beautiful experience for the students. And also, when you're thinking about it, when you have a good performance, definitely it will mean that the students are scoring highly. So it is for us as teachers and practitioners to make sure that the students enjoy the whole drama experience. And when they enjoy, the scores will be up there. Of course, the thing about scores, we do not have control over them, but we have control of making the whole experience wonderful and memorable. So for us, let us do that, what we can do on our part, and that will be very great for all of us. I think I'm done.
Julisa, do you have something for us about this? How can we make, yes.
I was just typing in agreement with Jackson. Absolutely. I would much rather teach and engage the students in such a way that they love to do it, that they're so inspired and they're doing the assignments and learning for the love of learning, for the love of drama. However, in a school situation, we often have students in a class not for the love of it, but because it's an easy credit or it's something that they have to do, or they're not self-motivated. So I think assessment comes in as a way to force them to do things that we would love them to do on their own because we know they will grow from it. But assessment makes them do it, and in the process of doing it find that, oh, they actually have learned something. So I personally, well, I'm not teaching in a school right now. I do independent classes because I love motivated students, but when I'm in school I find that the assessment does serve a purpose of motivation and learning by default, as it were. But I'm right with Jackson saying, yeah, let's try and teach in a way that inspires them.
All right, beautiful. And someone who asked about this, he needs to tell us a little bit about this. Clifford Oloch, what do you want us to do? What is your proposal?
I'm
right.
not sure with us. I
You're
think
waiting for Clifford Oloch. That was a question from Clifford Oloch. As we're waiting for Clifford Oloch about this particular question, so I'm gonna put the right one, the last one, just before we end the session. How do we practically do this? Julisa, you did a play online. We watched your production online. How were you able to really show us this play? How did you carry out your rehearsals? How did this work out?
Mm-hmm.
And what is your proposal for all the drama teachers that are all over there?
Yeah, well, we do the best we can because live theater is going to lose something every time we go online. Even this webinar is great. We can interact by talking, but we can't feel one another's energy. And that is some of the magic of live theater, is the energy that we pass from person to person and from audience to stage. And we're not going to be able to fully replace that with internet. But what we can do is engage in character development, in rehearsal online, talk through lines, get them doing actions, and then looking for socially distanced ways live in person, like get them in a big circle and go through lines, you know, separately from each other. And we did that. We rehearsed online, and then we got together and did a line through, and the energy was just palpable. And it excited them so much after being deprived of that and then getting together. So trying to look at those combinations of ways of doing things and keeping things in smaller numbers so that you can get together in person. That's what I've been doing these last 5 months, and it's working relatively well.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Erick Mukiira. Our host today was Shem Agunga, Derick as well. Julisa was one of our hosts. And then we had Jackson Ligaga, was one of those contributors that we always say he has to be on board. Then we had Joel, and then we had Clifford, who was our guest speaker. And then we also had Kajetan Boy, who was our guest speaker. And we are going to end our webinar with a piece of music. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Asante
Nice
sana.
weekend to you, Eric.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
It was
Bye,
fantastic.
bye.
Amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Let's enjoy the music as we log out. Yeah. I love it, guys.
Hey, we are enjoying ourselves.
Asante Shem, Asante Derick, Asante.
Wow.
This is how we live as drama teachers, man. We leave an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, now I need to go to bed.
Answer question later. Asante sana Shem.
Good
Pamoja.
night, Shem.
Any virtual samosas?
Asante Idris, man, you're fantastic.
Any virtual samosas?
Oh, shout out, man. Idris, I love you.
We have sausage pasua, smoky pasua.
Virtual sausages.
Smoky pasua.
Oh.
Namutura.
Kwa ajili ya giza.
Asante sana.
All right.
Asante, asante. Yeah.
Naenda nitarudi, imenibidi sina budi. Riziki kutafuta, usife moyo, jipe moyo. I promise. Machozi nitafuta, nieleze unachotaka. Nieleze, I'll be listening. Usilie wakati unataka. Niambie, I'll be listening. Niahidi, tutaonana tena. Tutaonana tena. Niahidi, tutaonana tena. Tutaonana tena. Nakuahidi, tutaonana tena. Tutaonana, niahidi, tutaonana tena. Tutaonana tena. Ngoja, I'm not going anywhere. Nitangoja. Kumbuka sio hoja, ninawe kukufa na kupona. My baby, nitavumilia. Niahidi, tutaonana tena.